Oh, damn it. Hi everybody, all my followers, be welcome to another video. Right, the car today. So I had to go and check. It's a 2009 Ford Mondeo Econetic, I think is how you pronounce it, with the 1.8 TDCi engine, or turbo diesel engine, I would say, 125 brake horsepower. Now, the reason why I mention all this is because it's an engine-related issue. The car came to me as a non-runner. It was brought in yesterday. I was not even at home when they brought me this, but it's a non-runner. So it doesn't start. I don't know if it cranks. We're gonna have a look at it. We're just gonna let the battery to charge a little bit more before we try it, just so we can see what's going on. In the meantime, we will be plugging the scanner, so we can have a quick scan, see what it tells us, etc, etc. Okay, so there we go. That's correct. One quick thing I would like to mention, while we load all this information, is that on a video, just completely off topic, on the video I've done the other day about the Maxi-Cs, the new feature that you could move programs into the SD card. It was only a few, I think was BMW, Peugeot, and a couple more. Someone on the comment said the machine will definitely be slower, etc, etc. I haven't tried all the brands yet, believe me or not, but on BMWs at least is as fast as it was before. I have not noticed any difference whatsoever. So just quick information here in case if anyone is interested. I found no difference at all running the programs that are now on the SD card. Okay, so just loaded. Let's gonna go to Diagnostics. Let's gonna go straight. Actually, let's not gonna go straight to this. Let's gonna do an auto scan. I don't know what's been done on the car. It's always good to have this. Okay, so only a few faults here and there, nothing major. So I'm not too worried about these ones for now. Let's just quick check instrument clusters. Instrument cluster is always good to know what's going on in there. See if there's anything relevant. It's doing self-test, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Let me go to my... Okay, that's interesting because the ABS module on these cars, I believe, is part of the immobilizer system. So let me see what they did onto this. What's been done onto this, actually. Because it will be interesting. Ooh, 12 volts supply circuit. Do we have a module that... Do we have a problem that actually was the ABS and nothing to do with the engine? Too early to say, I would say. Key on, engine off. I just want this. I don't want to do any self-tests for now. Power input signal. Power input signal. Okay. Okay, we have these codes. Let's gonna go back. Okay, so we've seen what we have. Let's gonna do a quick erase and see what we have coming back. And without even cycling the ignition, one code came back. Let's kind of see which one is. System voltage low, power input signal. Boom, I think. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so the system voltage low, I get that. Even though I'm now getting 13 volts, obviously is being charged. But is these codes related? So let's gonna go to some live data quickly, see what live data tell us. And then I think it might gonna be time to check for powers and grounds. However, that code for the ABS, I haven't cycled ignition, I haven't done nothing yet, so it might be that we still have a problem there. Okay, so blah 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 blah. Battery voltage, battery positive voltage, 0 volts. Boom. We start to get somewhere. It looks like we have a power feed problem. And we have a problem with our intake temperature sensor as well, by the looks of it. Okay. Sensor voltage, yeah, okay. So we definitely have at least, this being correct, we have at least one power feed into the ECU. So the ECU is booting, obviously we are communicating with it. But it looks like one of the power feeds is missing. I don't know how many power feeds we have in this case. Before I get into diagrams, actually let's gonna go to live data again. Keep our live data going on that PID for the voltage. We're going to do some visual checks before we move into check diagrams, etc. Because it might be that the problem is actually right in front of our eyes. Let's go and have a look. On a very quick visual inspection, I start to find some issues. Well, perhaps. Can you see something wrong with this relay? Yeah, look at that. Someone has been messing around with this. The relay is definitely latched, but is that making contact properly? We don't know. So let's gonna carry on with a few more. Oh, there's another one there. Look at that. Another one here. Oh crap. Another one here. Wow. Oh crap. Start the motor. Oh crap. Someone has been playing around with this. Oh dear. Oh dear. I don't want to touch anymore. Someone has been in there. Bloody hell. Definitely. Let's just do one thing before we proceed. Let's gonna do see if it actually cranks. No, it doesn't even crank. It doesn't even crank. Okay. So so this battery low, where is this information coming from? Is this information coming from my engine ECU? And obviously that would make sense. Or is that coming from 3 faults now? But that's gonna be, oh, forget about these faults now. We've been playing around with those, we've been touching those relays, so that could be anything really. Sorry about the glare. Let me check my IPC. Let's see which what battery voltage. We're gonna have to rectify that to start with, make sure those relays are actually making contact properly, etc. But do we have anything here for battery voltage? Looks like we don't, which means to me that low battery warning is being fed from something else, from a different module. So let's gonna check. It's gonna be, I have a feeling it's gonna be the PCM that is feeding that information. Let's gonna check PCM. We had no codes to start with. Let's gonna quick check again. Why have they smashed those relays? I can open those relays even to check without breaking them. There is ways to open that without smash them. Oh dear. So the car is not even cranking, which means to me it's gonna be the PCM that is not commanding the relay, which makes sense why they broke that, just to try to crank the engine. Oh dear. Oh dear, definitely someone has been playing with this car, which doesn't really surprise me. Every car I get comes already messed with. Okay, let's gonna quick check through this. Blah 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 blah. Charging system voltage 10.6 volts. Okay. That's weird. Come on. Have I gone? No, you haven't. Blah 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 blah. Ignition run, ignition relay on. Blah 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 blah. Oh. Module voltage supply 13 volts, which is okay. Battery is charging, so that's fine. Number of remote keys, 2 keys stored. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so I think there's nothing evaporated. Okay, so I think there's nothing here on this module that I actually need. Yeah, it's working. Okay, so let's gonna go back to my PCM, because I think that's where it's gonna be my issue. It's gonna be on my PCM. Let's just scan this module again. The ABS, see what we still have here. Just in case if you have another low voltage here. Lost communication with steering angle sensor module. Okay. Okay, that's fine. One fault there. Okay, we will worry about that later. Now let's gonna focus on my PCM. Let's go into turn ignition off, check all those relays, etc., and go from there. Okay, so using my test light, just went through all the fuses. All the fuses looks okay to me. I pulled out the ones that obviously are not being used at the moment, but they all look good to me. As you can see, 3 relays have been messed with. The caps are all broken, etc., as you can see there. Now this relay is my main relay. Checked, is powering okay, the current is flowing through okay, so it's good. This relay here is my Glowplex relay, and this relay is the starter motor, as we've seen earlier, and is okay as well. There's other relays perhaps for other stuff that I'm not really too worried about right now, but the first thing we're going to do for you guys that know this car, the ECU is right behind the wheel arch, so before we get to it, we're going to do a few basic checks for you guys now those knows these cars. Grounds for these, there's a few grounds underneath the airbox right there in the chassis. Some of them they actually power the ECU, so we're going to start by checking those before we move any forward. So I'm going to remove the airbox, and then we're going to be doing a few checks. Actually, just looking from the top, right? Oh, you can't really see, but they look a little bit rusty, so we're going to check them properly and go from there. And this is just because the issue with the power feed that says 0 volts might not be the voltage. It could well be a ground missing, so we don't know yet until we actually check it. But I don't want to go too further before do some basic checks. and obviously the clamp is missing. Okay, and as you can see, every single one looks a little bit rusty. Might not be here the issue, guys, and there's some more right there at the back. On that side we have the main one from chassis to engine, so they all look a little bit poor. So I'm gonna start by remove them all and give them a clean. Okay, and I think I'm gonna stop here because I've diagnosed the problem. Now, I've cleaned all that in there, and then I don't know, guys, sometimes it's one of those things is you look at the problem, you feel the problem, you feel that someone has been messing around with relays, etc, and you decide to do a couple tests. So obviously the engine doesn't crank from the key. When earlier we touched the starter motor relay by mistake, it sounded like you wanted to crank, obviously, like the engine, the starter motor spinned. But then, just curiosity, I decide to crank the engine. So as you can imagine, when you press that and you make contact to the starter motor, the engine should crank. That simple. Okay. Now I'm gonna crank it once, and I want you to make your own judgment. Right, did that sound good? No, it didn't. Now, the crank, the starter motor is definitely engaging. The reason why I know that is because the starter motor obviously engages in the flywheel. And on that end over there, we have I have the phone charging, hold on. We have the alternator. And as you're going to see, when I press that, the alternator spins, so which means the crank is rotating. Then, as you may have seen already, I removed the camshaft sensor. Now this is going to be tricky. Hold on, I hope the camera doesn't fall off when I crank the engine on the relay. So if you see that part of a lobe in there, that's what runs in front of the sensor and obviously times the engine. Now look what happens when I press the crank, the starter motor. Yes, it did not turn. Now, just to make sure, one last check. Okay, so I pushed the timing belt a little bit, the timing belt cover a little bit away. That mark on the timing belt, right there, that was me with a screwdriver, so you can just have a better reference of, so you can see the timing belt. But now I'm going to press the starter motor again, and I want you to look at the timing belt. Now I can't, hold on, let me see if I can hold the torch and record at the same time. It's a little bit tricky, hold on a second. Okay, that should do. You have a good look of the timing belt. Look at that mark right there that I've done. And look at the belt. I'm gonna crank. Yes, is effed. It's gone. Something is wrong somewhere down below. Don't know. Some of you guys might gonna say, "Oh, that's a common problem on the crankshaft pulley of the timing belt, whatever, on the woodruff key or some crap like that." I don't know. This is not for me for sure. This means head off most likely, because the cylinders have been most likely hitting the valves. So quite expensive repair here right now. But that's definitely not for me, as you know. But we diagnosed it. Okay, and I just did a little bit of investigation, and right, this car actually has two belts, or a chain and a belt. According to the information I found, there is a chain that drives from the actually crankshaft up to the fuel pump, and then from the fuel pump there is then the belt that we have just seen that drives the camshaft. Obviously, the belt that comes from the fuel pump up to the camshaft is good, which means I believe there is either a chain or another belt underneath. But looking by the noise and that sort of judging that it tries to engage, it looks to me like it's going to be a chain. Might be wrong, but either way, that first belt or chain is definitely gone, and that's why it's not driving either the fuel pump nor the camshaft. That definitely the head is going to have to come out. Most likely damaged valves, if not pistons, who knows. But I'm going to give a ring to the owner, see if he wants me to carry on digging why it doesn't even crank, because obviously that's a separate issue. Yeah, I'm going to ring him, see what he wants to do. Okay, and just had the owner of the car here actually. So I've explained to him everything that's going on with the car, and I actually got a little bit more of the story, because the car apparently, as you have seen, the car now doesn't even crank. It doesn't do nothing. Apparently the car was kind of tried to engage before it went somewhere else. So apparently the car the starter motor would engage, but the engine would not rotate. So it was like if the engine was seized, according to the owner. To me, I might be wrong here. To me, either the chain, if this is a chain, by the way, a little bit of information here. The older engines like this, I've just done a little bit more research on top of the one I just did before. The older engines on these, they came actually with a belt. I think it's called a wet belt. The newer engines, they come with a chain, and you can actually convert the belt to chain. So I don't know which one is here. The way you can know on your car is you take the tensioner off, which I believe is somewhere behind the crankshaft pulley for the auxiliary belt, somewhere around there. You take it off, and if the top of your tensioner is flat, that means you have a belt. If the top of your tensioner is round, that means you have a chain. So that's how you can know. If you have a belt, I would advise you to change it for the chain. Now, so as I was saying, to me, because the starter motor would engage, but wouldn't rotate the engine, to me that would mean the engine was either the pistons were hitting the valves, or if this is a chain one, maybe the chain was wrapped somewhere. I don't know, not really sure. But he definitely said to me, when you'd crank, you could hear the starter motor try to engage. Obviously, the car's been elsewhere. He was told the problem was electrical. That's why the car came to me. But now the car doesn't even do nothing. So, which means whoever been tried to diagnose this car made it even worse. Obviously, the initial problem's still there, and now doesn't even crank. But after I explained to the owner what the problem is, etc., etc., I gave him a very, very, very rough idea of how much it would cost to repair the car. Obviously, I said to him, you need to go to someone that actually does these kind of things and ask. But I gave him a very rough idea, and his call is that he doesn't want to fix it. Obviously, on top of the fix on the engine, I would still have to investigate why the starter motor is not engaging from the key, which I could do that now, but we already know there is another problem. So I didn't want to be charging the owner of the car for this repair to then get to the end and say, but now you have another problem, blah, 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 blah. I didn't want to do that, so that's not how I work. I found that problem first. I had to tell him so he could make an informed decision if he wants or not to repair the car. And his call is to leave it. He's going to pick up the car this afternoon again. And I think, I don't know, but I have a feeling that this is going to be scrapped. This car is going to be scrapped. Maybe no, don't know. So that's it really. Not really a fix. A little bit of an advice: if you have one of these, check if you have a belt in there. If you do have a wet belt, change it for the chain. It's way safer, more reliable, etc. I think the belt system has been put in there to fail. It was set up to fail, to put a wet belt in there, but well, that was for engineers on their wisdom. Right, this is now a rent video. So let's gonna wrap this up. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope there's some information here that you can find useful. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there is a piece of information here that you're gonna find useful, and that makes the whole video to be worth a little bit more. And that's it. If you do have any questions, any comments, please put them below. And like always, thanks for watching.